We are now just days away from the fantasy football season beginning, but we're still trying to make little tweaks and adjustments to our roster in order to make sure that we can compete this year. Well, I wanted to do a little experiment. I wanted to look not just for some guys that are inexpensive that could help you over that hurdle to win the championship. I wanted to do it as inexpensively as possible. So here's what I did. I took players after an ADP in Dynasty. I took players in Dynasty at their ADP past ADP of 80 overall. That seems to roughly be the line between guys that most people would ask for a first for and players that would just be a second or so and sometimes even thirds in order to get the job done. So I wanted to look, could we build a team from an ADP of 80 on that would have a shot of winning the championship? Now, I'm not necessarily recommending only go with these players. If you have a Jamar Chase on your team, if you have a Bijan Robinson on your team, absolutely keep those guys. You don't need to move on from those players. But could we hypothetically build a roster with an ADP past 80 that would get us even close to being in the conversation? Of course, if we have those extra pieces on top, that will easily make us contenders. But I wanted to see what we could do here. So here's 14 players that I would be potentially looking to add because A, they're inexpensive, and B, they could help me win a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. Let's start off at the top, our starting quarterback. If we desperately needed a quarterback, I'm going for the guy that's quarterback 23 overall, an ADP of 82.5 in our most recent Superflex tight end premium data. We're looking at Justin Fields. Now, I know that Justin Fields is a big risk, but he's also a big reward type player. We've seen in games that he's played, he's averaged somewhere between quarterback 6 and quarterback 10 for most of his career. So if you're telling me that you can get a potential quarterback 1 for the price of quarterback 23, that seems to be pretty good value. The good part is, too, he's relatively cheap and he's still young. There is upside. Now, could this in a year or two end up being a guy that is not even a starting quarterback anymore? Yeah, but that's baked into the price. That's why you're getting him this cheap. And at this price tag, it's worth it, even if it's just a one-year rental. But if it's more than that, then you totally capitalize on a great point in Justin Value's career. Let's move on to our 2 running back spots. The first one with a ADP of 82.1, we're looking at running back 22, Alvin Kamara. He's kind of the last of those potentially elite running backs that you can get relatively inexpensively. And I know that there's risk with how bad this team is this year, but that also means that they're probably going to need to throw the ball quite a bit in order to stay in games. They're going to be down a lot. Who's one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL that we've had over the past decade? It's been a guy named Alvin Kamara. So I am absolutely capitalizing on him here with his ADP at 82.1. I think he's somebody that not even just this year, but maybe another year or two as well, could be a piece to help you win a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. We went with another guy in his 30s here. He's, in fact, just 30 years old, but that makes you in your 30s. His ADP is a little bit lower, 103 overall, and he's at running back 28, and that's James Conner. This is a guy that we have been trying to kill off forever. We've been trying to vote him off the island. We've been trying to say that he's done, his career's over, and what does he do? He just keeps producing. In fact, last year was one of the first times that he played an entire season. So he stayed healthy and he put up numbers. Always perennially underrated, but because of the age, you can get him relatively cheap. Now, I will give a little hint. Outside of our starting lineup, I also have 6 bench guys. One of the guys on the bench is Trey Benson, so we'll cover him now. His ADP is 125 overall, and we're looking at RB 35. I want both of these guys on this team. If I'm getting one, I want the other as well, because I think Trey Benson, if something were to happen to James Conner due to just them deciding to go with the younger back or an injury, Trey Benson's somebody that could take over, and then that's his job for the foreseeable future. So I want both of these guys together. I don't want them apart. And at overall ADP of 103 and ADP overall of 125, you're probably just having to give up 2 total seconds to get 2 guys that one or both could be a consistent part of your lineup this year. Let's move to our 2 starting wide receiver spots. The first one here, Davante Adams. His ADP is 96th overall, and he is wide receiver 36. Davante Adams has been on a lot of teams, but all he's done each and every year is produce. And I get it. You're like, well, he's 32 years old. I don't know how much longer I can trust that he'll do this. Well, looking at the age 32 season from a lot of legends in the game, looking at guys like Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Larry Fitzgerald. Yes, I know maybe he's not in those quite the same conversations, but he's up there. He's a Hall of Fame level guy. And all of those guys put up over 1,000 yards in their age 32 season. So I still think we're going to get over 1,000 yards. I think we're going to be bordering on 10 touchdowns, assuming that Matthew Stafford stays healthy. I think this is one of the guys that could end up even being a wide receiver 1, despite you getting him all the way down here at wide receiver 36. Another guy that's a little bit up there in years. He's 29 right now, going to be turning 30 in season, but I'm taking player 102 overall with the wide receiver 39. I'm taking Courtland Sutton. He was dynamite for this offense in Denver last year. And honestly, they haven't really done much else at the wide receiver position. In fact, they actually took away a guy in Davante Adams. But we do know these other guys are going to be involved. But the main guy is still going to be Courtland Sutton. Maybe someday it's Pat Bryant, their 3rd-round pick. But for right now, it's Courtland Sutton. I expect him to lead the team in targets, yards, and touchdowns on a team that it plays in a very, very competitive division. So a lot of shootouts, a lot of scoring that could be happening inside this division, and Courtland Sutton's going to be the main beneficiary. Arguably my favorite pick out of all the ones I have here isn't even inside the top 100. We're looking at pick 114, actually closer to 115 in ADP at 114.8. Tight end 12 overall. At our tight end spot, we're taking David Njoku. Love this pick. I think this is a sleeper for the number 1 overall tight end this season. Look at what he did in the past with Joe Flacco, averaging nearly 20 points per game when he was there. He averaged over 15 points a game last year with any quarterback not named Deshaun Watson. He is going to ball out this year. It is the right offense for him. He's got the right quarterback. I think this is a slam dunk, and he is a priority add on any dynasty contending team that I have where I do not have a George Kittle, Brock Bowers, or Trey McBride. In our flex spot, we're going to go back to the wide receiver position. Let's look at Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, an ADP of 124.2. That means he's wide receiver 47 overall. And man, I will do that all day and twice on Sunday with that price point. I'm giving up my late seconds as a contender to get a guy like Calvin Ridley on my team, because when we look at this Tennessee Titans team, who's going to catch the football? There is no other established player in this receiving core. It is Mr. Calvin Ridley. And all the reports in camp and preseason was that Cam Ward had eyes for Calvin Ridley. And why wouldn't he? He's the best guy he's got. So Calvin Ridley makes our team here in our flex spot. In the super flex spot, I ended up deciding to go with the stack. And that means Matthew Stafford is at my super flex quarterback position. Yes, he's 37, going to be turning 38. But at an ADP of 123.5 and quarterback 29 overall, I had to sneak him in. Part of the reason was I liked getting the stack with Davante Adams. That gives us that higher ceiling on a weekly basis. But also, this is a guy that we've seen be a quarterback 1 when healthy and his weapons are healthy. If he is, and that's still a big if, we don't know how this back is going to work. But if he's healthy and we see Puka Nacua and Davante Adams getting their full run, he could end up still being a quarterback 1, even though it's late in his career. If you're ready to take your dynasty team to the next level, I have the perfect deal for you. We are now offering our full bundle. That is everything that we have to offer here at Dynasty Nerds. The GM tool, which not only will let you see how your team looks, but the rest of your league and as many leagues as you have. There's tons of tools inside there, including mock draft tools, trade browsers, trade calculators, looking at the overall league strengths and weaknesses. You'll have it all there. But on top of that, you'll also have our film room that looks at all of our rookies, our nerd score, extra podcasts, everything. And we're giving it away as cheap as we can right now. Up until kickoff of the first game of the NFL season on September 4th, you'll get this for 30% off if you use YouTube30, promo code YouTube30 at checkout. Head to dynastynerds.com right now. Use promo code YouTube30 today. All right, now we're on to the bench spots. We already covered one of them in Trey Benson. Let's go ahead and get to the other running back. We're going to go with David Montgomery. He's the 95th guy off the board overall, running back 24. And it was tough to choose my last running back because I was very interested in J.K. Dobbins, who had a lower ADP. I was very interested in DeAndre Swift, who had a lower ADP. Even a guy like Tank Bigsby, who was really cheap, and I think is going to be the lead in Jacksonville. But I wanted to play it safe since I already had the backup, and I only gave myself 6 bench spots. I wanted a steady Eddie guy in case Trey Benson doesn't become anything. David Montgomery gives that to me. We know that he's going to still get some good run in Detroit there, and he's going to get some work along the goal line and still gets more passing game work than people realize. So David Montgomery at age 28, he's my pick for my other running back bench spot. Let's move back to the quarterback. And you could argue that maybe this guy should start over Matthew Stafford. And if you want to put him in there ahead of him, I'm okay with that. But that's Tua Tagovailoa. With Tua here, I know that there is some really high ceiling potential with the yardage and maybe the touchdowns that we'll get. We're not getting anything on the ground. We're not going to get rushing touchdowns. We're not going to get rushing yards, but we are going to get a lot of air yards. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping this offense harkens back to what we saw in 2022 and 2023, where we have the big plays, the big gains in this offense flying down up and down the football field. Tua, if he can stay healthy, was the key catalyst in this offense. The offense looked drastically different without him. And I think he could still show us some, maybe not quite quarterback 1, but some very high-end quarterback 2 type numbers. Let's get to these receivers, and this just shows me wide receiver is so easy to buy a bunch of older vet guys that can still contribute. 2 guys that I have here, one with an ADP of 95. The first one here, Jerry Jeudy's wide receiver 35. Really love this value here. And he's one of the younger guys on our total build. He's only 26 years old, so he's still going to be around us for a while. But this is a team in Cleveland. Now that we have David Njoku, yeah, maybe you say, I don't know that I want Jerry Jeudy too. That's fine. But I want to make sure that I get whoever the apple of Joe Flacco's eye is, because we know that he is going to be balling out. So if you're confident it's going to be David Njoku instead of Jerry Jeudy, that's all right. There's other wide receivers that we could get as well. Mike Evans was another name that we could potentially look at in this range. But he was right there on the cusp ADP-wise, so I didn't feel good putting him in. But same type of guy that you probably don't have to give a first for. So also look at Stefon Diggs, wide receiver 56, 147 overall as far as his ADP, and he is 31 years old, going to be 32 as the season wraps up. Very good wide receiver. He was a guy that was showing us top 10 type wide receiver numbers before his injury last year, and he's another player that has basically the room to himself. We have some young guys with some upside in this wide receiver core, but there's nobody established here. Stefon Diggs is going to be a big key part of what Drake May does and his next step of development. And with the addition of guys like Trayvon Henderson to help with pass pro, and of course, the number 4 overall pick with Will Campbell, there's going to be more time to get the ball out to his playmakers. And so Stefon Diggs could still help us win a championship even at his age. Last one here. I still love these tight end values. You're giving me Evan Engram at pick 125, tight end 14. I love that value. He's another guy playing in Denver's offense. If he is the Joker, which we don't know for sure, but it's looking like he's going to be the Joker right now. J.K. Dobbins, all reports are he's going to be the main starter. So they're going to have somebody else kind of be the Joker in this offense, not R.J. Harvey. That leaves me with Evan Engram, a guy that's going to be getting a butt ton of targets and going to be crazy valuable in PPR leagues this year. So guys, let me know the overall team, how you think it turned out. Let me read it one more time. Justin Fields, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Davante Adams, Courtland Sutton, David Njoku, Calvin Ridley, Matthew Stafford, Tua, Trey Benson, David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, Stefon Diggs, and Evan Engram. Go ahead in the comments. Give me a 1 to 10 on if this team could compete. And by compete, I mean be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. If you think it's got no chance at all, give it a 1. If you think there's no doubt it'll be in, give it a 10. Even on my own team, I'll be a tough critic. I'll give it a 6 to be able to be one of the top 4 teams in the league, making the semis this season. Guys, you don't have to add all of these players, but on your teams that already have the Bijans, the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Christian McCaffreys, add 2 or 3 of these guys and thank me later.